Here's what you need to say to yourself when you start listening to politicians or newscasters say, "Hey, this is really important that you pay attention to this because this is what I think," and you'll know who you can trust, especially in Washington D.C. If they're not talking about the government spending, then they're not serious about inflation. Period. If with the border, if they're talking about how dangerous things are in America, and we've got to make sure that we are buttoned up, and things are bad, and blah blah blah, and we've got terror. All the red lights are flashing, but they don't talk about stopping the hemorrhaging at the border. They're not serious. You talk about FISA. Oh, we've got to have extra duper, super duper, warrantless searches on Americans because it's so dangerous. And you never know if Americans are involved. But they are not saying anything about the Palestinian Nazis on our streets that are organized and well-funded. They're not serious about your security. Period. If the New York Times writes a story that says, yeah, you know what, this Trump trial, it's got a mountain of facts to it. Really? But they don't seem to care that the statute of limitations is passed.
No mountain of evidence can overwhelm that fact.
Yeah, right.
We're past the statute of limitations.
The fact that the DOJ passed on, I don't know if you know this, DOJ doesn't like Donald Trump.
What?
Yeah. The fact that the Federal Elections Committee also passed on this and said there's no crime here, there's nothing. Even Alvin Bragg, the prosecutor, passed on this originally. There's nothing here. There is no mountain of evidence that is standing in the way of anything other than a mistrial.
I love how it's like presented as this uphill battle too. It's like, is a mountain of evidence even enough for this very difficult task they have to do of convicting Donald Trump in Manhattan?
Did you hear what Jayapal said? What's her name?
Jayapal?
Yeah, Jayapal. She came out and she said this weekend. Do we have it? Yeah, listen to this.
Oh, good.
And, I go back to the responsibility of Congress here, because had the Senate actually gone through with the impeachment of Donald Trump, we would not be in this situation.
Wait, what?
Wait a minute. What?
Hold it. What?
I don't understand.
We wouldn't be in this situation.
Now, she's telling the truth.
Yes, she is.
She is telling the truth.
Not even under oath.
If I know,
she's under
amazing.
oath, she'll lie. But in this case, she's telling the truth.
She is. If they had convicted Trump and he was ineligible to become president of the United States, they wouldn't be doing any of this.
Correct.
Because they don't actually
there's
care.
Nothing
it's
here.
not real. They're just trying to win this election.
Give me the New York Times mountain of evidence.
Well, Glenn, as you know, they've got 34 counts.
34 counts.
I had forgotten this, but this is incredible going over the stuff as we were preparing for this.
34 counts. That sounds bad.
So it's 34 false records accusations here.
Wow. So he's forged or put lies in 34 different places, 34 different times.
Right, 34. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Now, when you think about this case, we kind of know the basic structure of it, right? Like Michael Cohen made payments to these women to shut them up before the election. Again, this is the accusation. And Trump, now that's not illegal, by the way. They're not even accusing him of being illegal.
Hush money. It's just hush money.
Right.
Well, no, but it's not illegal.
Right. So you might have a problem with that. You might think that's not a good, feature for a president of the United States to have, but you could make that decision at the ballot box. So they're not even saying that. What they're saying is it was false records. So what they did is, Cohen makes these payments to shut up Stormy Daniels and the group. And then to pay Cohen back, they basically make a BS line in their records, which says it's additional legal expenses or something like that. Like they mark it as like a retainer for legal services, which it wasn't. It was paying him back for these payments. Okay. So this is how they get to 34 counts. Because if you remember, that was just paid back over a year. So how do you get to 34 counts when it's basically one payment? Well, first of all, you break that up. They made 12 payments. So that's 12 counts. Okay, that's how this is legitimately how they're doing it. Okay. Obviously, they're paying him back for one thing, but he separated into monthly payments, so it was 12 counts.
So I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear the jury argument. I don't think he meant it in June and July,
right?
But the other 10 counts, they'll stand. So if you have 12 counts, that's already sounds horrible,
right? But it's all it is
because you wouldn't pick 1 month he didn't really mean it. You'd have to pick all 12. So he's convicted just there.
Yeah.
12 counts.
Now, technically, it was 11. I think if I remember right, one of the payments was skipped or whatever, but it was 11. So 11 checks. Okay. That's 11 of the 34 counts.
Okay. 11.
And you might say, wait a minute, that's totally stretching, right? It's one payment broken into 11 times. Okay, that's BS. Secondarily, it's 11 monthly invoices Mr. Cohen submitted. So it wasn't just 11.
So now we're up to 22.
That's 22 counts. So the 22 counts are 11 times he paid him in a check, and the 11 times he invoiced him for those same payments. So again, it's still just one payment. They've now broken it into 22 different charges. Okay? And you might say, well, that's completely ridiculous. They couldn't get more ridiculous than that. Well, when the payments went through in the general ledger for Mr. Trump's trust, he used 12 entries to signify this, so that's the other 12. So it's 11 checks, 11 invoices, and 12 entries into the general ledger. Those are the 34 charges. Come on. I mean, I might be, 22. 34. Yeah. Come on. I mean, anyone could recognize they're trying to blow this number up to make it look more like it was a real series of criminal activity rather than just one thing. This is one payment. Now, you can absolutely have a problem with that one payment. That is totally fine.
But that's not 32
and it's
counts.
Not how 34. That's
34,
not how the legal system's supposed to work. There are very clear warnings against prosecutors throughout our legal history that say, hey, don't inflate cases like this. Don't try to get the number up there just so it looks overwhelming to the general public. But of course, that's what they're doing here, because this is all about the general public. It's got nothing to do with him and his business records. Come on. There is no way you can justify this, especially after the statute of limitations has already expired.
That's unbelievable. 32 counts.
34.
No, 32 counts. I don't count one of the checks and one of the entries on a different month. They're both from different.
So the April check and the July payment. You're just like, no.
I thought the entry was. I thought he meant it at that point.
That particular one.
Yeah, that particular one. So I'm convicting on 32 counts.
And then you've got Michael Cohen, who's the guy who's going to come in here, and they say this is an interesting one that they also frame in the New York Times story. So they say that aides and friends who lied on Mr. Trump's behalf will take the witness stand to testify against him. They include David Pecker, the tabloid publisher who bought and buried damaging stories about Mr. Trump. Now, Pecker, I don't think we'll see. Maybe he's going to testify against Donald Trump, or he's just going to tell the truth that, they probably did catch and kill these stories. Like seems like
what he did.
There's incredible amount of evidence on that front, but that again is not what he's being charged with, right? Like the payments and the ledger entries are what he's being charged with, not the fact that he wanted to minimize publicity about negative instances right before an election, which of course he was trying to do.
Stu, he made a mistake, and he was only trying to save his marriage. A man can't lie to save his marriage.
Right.
I mean,
look.
I can't take it.
They're going to try to push all of these angles. Hope Hicks is another one. Now, Hope Hicks, they say spokesperson who tried to spin reporters is her description here. Now, Hope Hicks, again, I don't think is going to come out and testify against Donald Trump in air quotes. I think she's going to tell the truth about what happened, right? Like I don't think anyone's saying that she has this like vendetta against Trump. Now, Cohen does, right? Cohen clearly does. And Cohen will go farther, my guess is, than either of those other two.
Oh, yeah.
By a lot.
Yeah.
He'll say anything. This is what he was known for before when he worked for Trump.
This is how he gets a job at MSNBC.
Yep. And how he got a job with Donald Trump. right? Like, he wasn't qualified for that job. He's a nobody. And he was constantly lying about everything when he worked for Donald Trump. And now he's constantly lying about everything that will please MSNBC. He's been a constant liar every day he's been alive since I've been aware of it. That's been who he has been. He's always done this, in my opinion. And so he is one of those people that, of course, they're saying Trump is like basically saying like this guy has no credibility. And it's true. And you can name 500 things from when he worked for Donald Trump, when he had no credibility. Mm-hmm. A lot of the lies they know are lies are because he was lying on behalf of Donald Trump for so many years. And now he's coming out here, he's like, no, and now I've totally changed my mind. And all of the things I said before I could admit are lies. And suddenly the media embraces him for that. It's so transparent. Like, he should be the type of person you don't even allow in a courtroom unless you're convicting him of something.
And here's the real problem is, again, all of this is past the statute of limitations. Yep. The reason why you can't go after Hunter Biden on some of the drug charges, was it the drug charges? Tax charges, is because it's past the statute of limitations, which they intentionally had the Justice Department drag it out so they couldn't charge him with that. There's corruption. This one, they just didn't file charges because the government said there was no problem. Even Alvin Bragg, the prosecutor, said there was no problem. And so they just waited. They had nothing else. I don't know, try it. So they concoct all of this to get past the statute of limitations. There's a mountain I'd like to see them climb.
Yeah, well, and they're going to try it. And now, this is, again, to your point, was referred to as the zombie case inside of Bragg's office because they were just waiting and hoping something would come up to make it real, but they knew it wasn't. So now, how do they make it real? Well, they say if it's connected to another crime, if the business record falsification was connected to another crime that was not past the statute of limitations, then we can turn it into a felony, and then we can...
so what was the other crime?
He wasn't charged with it. So Bragg is assuming a crime that the DOJ didn't go after Trump for. He's saying they should have gone after him for it. Therefore, I can pass through the statute of limitations, even though the DOJ itself didn't bring the crime he's talking about.
Let me just bring this to simple terms. Let's say I want to get you on the same thing that Donald Trump was doing, okay? And I said, well, it's past the statute of limitations, but you murdered that woman, it was years ago.
Right. The payments were connected to my murder.
Right. But you were never charged with murder.
No.
You were never convicted of murder.
Right.
I'm not going to bring up the murder.
No.
But that's how
it's connected to the murder.
Get you.
Yeah, is a great way. That's exactly what the people in the jury should be.
This is amazing. What a magic trick this will be to pull off. But not in New York, because everyone there, for some strange reason, loved Donald Trump. And now that he was president, they hate him. This is the O.J. Simpson trial in reverse. This guy didn't cut somebody's head off, but because they're so mad at him, they're going to convict him. Where OJ, he did cut off somebody's head, but the jury was so pissed at the system, they let him off. Mm-hmm. There's no difference.